You map out a massive, ambitious project. You set the goals, clear your schedule, sit down to work, and suddenly you're meticulously color-coding your inbox instead of writing a single word. You end up deep cleaning your entire room, vigorously scrubbing surfaces to avoid even looking at that glowing screen in the background. This pivot to busy work is a hardwired neurological response to the sheer scale of the plan you just made. Procrastination researcher Tim Peichel spent 2 decades studying why we abandon our own goals, concluding that the behavior stems from difficulty regulating emotions. The moment you think about starting that massive creative project or heavy assignment, your brain generates acute negative emotions. You feel self-doubt, anxiety, and a deep fear that the end result won't be good enough. Your brain despises negative emotions. Its immediate biological reflex is to escape them by finding a fast, easy alternative that makes the dread go away. When you abandon your big plan, your brain is successfully managing your psychological distress at the direct expense of your dream. Every time you face a difficult task, 2 competing systems in your brain lock into a battle for control. The amygdala, your alarm system, processes overwhelming tasks as threats, emitting signals triggering flight. Your dorsal anterior cingulate cortex extends a rational barrier to push you to work. But during an amygdala hijack, the emotional alarm shatters this barrier, forcing your retreat. The second you step away from the work, the dread vanishes. In its place, you experience a sudden, powerful rush of relief. That feeling of relief is a potent biological reward. Basic psychology dictates that any behavior that gets rewarded gets repeated. This creates the avoidance loop. You face a big task, you feel anxiety, you default to avoidance, and you receive the reward of relief. Every time you cycle through this loop, you physically strengthen the neural pathway for procrastination. Your discipline circuits atrophy, making avoidance your default state. If your brain's only goal is running away from hard tasks, you might wonder why you don't just sit perfectly still on the couch. You don't sit still because doing absolutely nothing triggers guilt. And guilt is exactly the kind of negative emotion your amygdala is desperately trying to escape. To solve this, the brain uses a disguise researchers call short-term mood repair, or productive procrastination. It masks avoidance as productivity. Instead of confronting the intimidating blank document, you meticulously organize your notes, or read 10 more books on how to start a business. These tasks feel like work, but they carry absolutely zero risk of failure. Perfectionism acts as a second disguise. By demanding impossibly high standards, you ensure you never start the work, and if you never start, you never fail. All the busy work filling up your day is an emotional shield. You feel productive, but you haven't moved a single inch toward your actual goal. To figure out how to break this cycle, Peichel ran a study back in the 1990s. He gave university students pagers and pinged them 8 times a day to track their exact emotions leading up to an intimidating academic deadline. The students spent the entire week avoiding the assignment and dreading the work. But when the deadline finally forced them to act, they consistently reported the exact same thing. The task was nowhere near as bad as they thought. The data revealed a clear pattern. You are avoiding your prediction of how the task will make you feel, rather than the task itself. Since the dread of starting is the real enemy, the only way to defeat an amygdala hijack is to physically shrink the perceived threat until it can bypass the alarm. Step 1 is to catch the feeling and name it out loud. Identifying your anxiety or overwhelm shifts processing power away from the emotional brain and back to your rational mind. Step 2 is to make your objectives stupidly small. You commit to working for exactly 5 to 10 minutes, with zero expectation of actually finishing the task. You don't have to write the essay. Your only goal is to open a blank document. You don't have to do the grueling workout. Your only goal is to tie your shoes. A microscopic task is simply too small to trigger the amygdala's threat response. It gets you past the alarm, allowing you to start and immediately realize the actual work is easy. Interrupting the avoidance loop with 10-minute actions overrides these biological defaults, creating the momentum needed to sustain work on your biggest dreams.